Welcome to the Quiverful Adoptions podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Casey. We are two adoptive mamas who have walked in your shoes, so we get it.
We remember the crazy journey of adoption like it was yesterday, and we are so thankful we get to share some amazing stories with you right here from the living room of our office.
Well, actually, we're sitting in the bathroom, but the living room does sound better.
Anyway, none of that matters. We're glad you're here.
So grab a cup of coffee and join us as we dive right in.
Hey guys!
Hey friends!
Hope that you guys are having a great Wednesday. We are really excited about today's podcast because it includes our favorite fundraiser.
T-shirts!
Yay! Casey, did you do a t-shirt fundraiser?
I did. I've done 2 t-shirt fundraisers. The first one for Alla Mae, it said love makes a family and it had a tree on it. And I ran the fundraiser for about 21 days. And it was on a charcoal t-shirt, super soft. And the funny thing is that I still see people around town wearing it. And I'm like, that's from my fundraiser. But yeah, people still ask if I have any of those shirts left. Nope, sorry, sure don't. We actually did ours through another fundraising platform called Bonfire. And it was really successful. We sold 117 shirts, and we ended up raising $2,500 with that fundraiser.
I always say Casey has the best memory because if you ask me right now how much we made on our t-shirt fundraiser, there's no way I could tell you. I remember it being successful, but I don't remember to the dollar like she does. But I will say that our t-shirt fundraiser, we would not recommend doing one like us. We did, which you'll hear more about in the podcast, but we did our last name on the front of our shirt. And if I could go back and do it over, I would totally do it over because I'm embarrassed about it.
No, don't be embarrassed. But I mean, I didn't buy one because I didn't want Bordeaux across my boobs.
Well, I can't blame you there. So today we are talking to McCall Aldridge. She is the lead storyteller at Fund the Nations, and she's also an adoptive mom. McCall and her husband fundraised about 90% of their international adoption through selling t-shirts.
What?
I know. We can't wait to listen to McCall tell her story and share with us some of the do's and don'ts of t-shirt fundraising.
This is going to be so good.
Y'all stay tuned. Hey guys.
Hey friends.
So today we have McCall Aldridge with Fund the Nations. McCall, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
McCall, why don't we start out by just you sharing a little bit of your story and what led you to Fund the Nations?
Okay, well, my husband and I had we had one biological child at the time, a daughter, and one day of all things, I was watching YouTube. Adoption was not really on our radar. In fact, at the time, we thought we only wanted one child, which is just funny to me now. And it was when blogging was the thing. And so I was looking at a blog and it led me to this YouTube video about a woman who had adopted from Africa. And in that moment, I feel like my heart God used that, of all things, YouTube video to just really open my eyes and my mind and my heart. And from that moment on, I knew that's what we were being called to do. So bless my husband when he came home from work that day and had to listen to all the things going on in my mind. But we knew right then that we felt called to adopt. And so that led us, fast forward a bit, we ended up having another biological child and then getting into the process to adopt from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Our little girl, Evie, has been home for about 2.5 years now. We actually fundraised about 90% of our adoption through selling t-shirts. And so that actually is what led me to work for Fund the Nations.
Did you fundraise your t-shirts through Fund the Nations?
We did our last one, yeah. Originally, Fund the Nations was still kind of new, and we actually didn't know about them for our first fundraiser. And then our second fundraiser, which was our big one, we sure did use them, yeah.
So Democratic Republic of the Congo, that's in Central Africa, correct?
Correct.
Are they still open?
They're not. They actually shut down very shortly after my daughter came home. She was one of the last kids to get out, actually, before they shut down because they were going to war. So they're definitely not open. It's actually still not a safe place to be right now, unfortunately.
So sad. So how old is your daughter now?
That's a great question. We actually aren't 100% sure on that. When you're born in Congo, it's pretty much the jungle, and you don't necessarily have, like, she wasn't born in a hospital. We don't have any records of that. So on paper, the government assigned her a birthday. On paper, she just turned 5. We think she's closer to like 6 or maybe even 6.5.
Okay, wow. So you're getting to go through the fun kindergarten stage.
Yes, and she is so much fun, and it's fun to hear people, in our area where we live, there is some international adoption, but not just a ton. And so it's so neat to hear people see her like, oh, she's reading, and oh, she's doing so well. And it's just a testament of the Lord and the fact that He's provided for her and taken care of her. And I feel like we just tend to want to point people back to the idea that, like, that's the difference a family can make.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So you were able to raise 90% of your adoption.
Yes, through T-shirts. Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
It really is.
Yeah.
How much did that equate
to? Let's see, about 90%, probably about $35,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
And all of the adoptive and hopeful adoptive families, there was just a collective mouth drop on that.
Yes. It's insane. I know, it's insane. It really was just the Lord. I don't know what else to say to that. We were moving at the time, so we didn't, especially at first, didn't have like a church family. So a lot of our shirts weren't local, which is not normal. Oftentimes people's church or their local community are really the ones that fund that. We actually sold about, 90% of our shirts online to people we didn't know. I think I had a blog, I had an Instagram, and I think people got really invested in our story, and they really wanted to see our daughter come home. And so they just really rallied around us, and we ended up selling a ton of shirts to people we didn't know. We would ship those out, and people just really from all over the country worked to help bring our daughter home.
How many followers did you have on Instagram?
Probably about 2,500. So not just a ton.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. I just had a lot of connections, and a lot of people shared. I used an online hosting site for our shop, quote, so to say, and had a lot of people share it. A lot of people were invested. The Congo was a pretty scary place. It's actually, I don't know if it still is now, but when our daughter came home, it was the rape capital of the world. There's a lot of beauty there, but there's a lot of hard there as well. And I think that we also it took us about 3.5 years to get our daughter home. And during that time, we actually were matched with another little girl and ended up not being able to bring her home after about 2.5 years of loving her and praying for her and staring at her face. And I had gone and met her, and then she wasn't able to come home. And so we were matched with our daughter, Evie, who is here with us. She came home in less than a year from the time we were matched to her until she was home was about 9 months. And so I think that people had just followed our story. They'd seen our heartbreak. They'd kind of grieved with us. And then they wanted her to come home. I had actually stopped fundraising because, in all honesty, the odds were just really stacked against us bringing our daughter home. And the country was closing. Things were really stressful. Our paperwork was delayed. Like, it just all the things that could go wrong felt like they were snowballing. And I was just really aware of the fact that this was other people's money that they were giving to us in good faith, that we were being honorable with it. I took that very, very seriously. And with so many unknowns, I just didn't feel comfortable asking people to support us in that. And so I had kind of stopped fundraising and just said, Lord, if this is your will and she's going to come home, then I'm just going to have to trust that you're going to give us what we need when we need it. We were told in March that it was very unlikely that she would come home. And she came home in May. We actually met on Mother's Day.
Wow.
It was about 3 weeks. I got a call from my agency, and they were like, hey, are you ready for this? Your daughter's going to come home, and it's going to be a couple weeks. And I was like, okay. So not only did I have to, prepare our home and our children and our lives to bring our daughter home, but I also had to fundraise. At that point, I think it was about $15,000 that we still needed. And I was like, all right, well, let's do this thing. And so I immediately got one of our designers at work to come up with a good design for me. I kind of knew what I wanted, and I got him to throw something together. and started selling it. And we sold about 750 t-shirts in about 5 days.
Wow.
And raised every penny of what we needed. So the Lord did exactly what he promises. He provided what we needed, and we were good, and it all worked out. But it was a stressful few weeks for sure.
That's incredible. I think I struggled to sell 120. So your title at Fund the Nations is lead storyteller, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So what is that? What does that mean?
Okay, well, I get asked this question a lot because I don't think that's an unusual title for sure. So I have 3 things that I'm in charge of. I run our college rep program. We have campus reps across the country. I run that program, which I just love. I love working with college kids. I love their heart for missions. I love hearing all the ways that they're working to change the world. It's one of my favorite things that I get to do. I also go to events. I represent Fund the Nation. I seek out events, whether it's an adoption conference or a missions conference. I kind of find those out, and then either I'll go to them and speak, or I will find someone on staff who would be a good fit and arrange for them to go and speak. And then I also run our blog and some of our social media. So basically, we every day have people come to us with these great stories of things they're doing to change the world. Their ideas or their passions or their hearts, or they're going here and they're serving here and they're building a school, and just so many amazing things going on around the world. And I feel like the world, outside of that doesn't seem maybe so inspiring. There's so much negative in the world, and we hear these great stories and we feel like it would almost be selfish of us not to share them. My job is kind of to help get those stories out there. Because, while I would love to go to Africa all the time, I've been 6 times and I would love to go monthly, that's just not realistic. But it's so encouraging to know that there are people going every day around the world working to make a difference. And so we just kind of hope that through sharing those stories, people will not only be inspired, but will be motivated to maybe take the plunge themselves, feel confident in knowing others have done it too. They fundraised their adoption, they fundraised their trip. Money shouldn't be a reason for me to say no. I can do that too and go and serve.
Your story matters. Creating your adoption profile book is one of the most important aspects of your adoption journey. It is the first and usually only opportunity for you to share your story with a potential expectant family, and Arrow and Root is here to help make that process as easy as possible. Having a professionally designed profile book that is expectant parent focused will help you stand out and bring you comfort in knowing your book communicates who you are as a family in the best way possible. Allow Arrow and Root to help you make a great and lasting first impression. It means everything.
So, McCall, shifting gears a little bit, let's talk specifically about the t-shirt fundraisers. I know a lot of our hopeful adoptive families that are listening, in planning for their fundraising. Do you have any do's and don'ts that you kind of work off of or suggest?
Absolutely. So the number one bit of advice I can give you is to be willing to share your story. I think that when people hear your story, they feel invested in it. People love to know that they're being a part of something. They love to help make something happen. And, I'm a very firm believer in the idea that God calls us all to care for the widow and the orphan. He doesn't just call those that are called to adopt. And one way that people can support adoptions is through the financial aspect of it. Something as simple as buying a t-shirt can be what helps bring a child to their forever family. And there is nothing shameful about that at all. It is a gift that you've been asked by the Lord to do this. It is a gift that you've been called. And I think that sharing that, it's His story too. And I think that sharing that story just helps other people realize that. I got so much positive feedback during our adoption about people, I never thought about adoption until I heard your story. Adoption always seems so scary or so hard or so out of reach. Just really sharing your story, getting people to feel connected, inviting them in, and to the highs and the lows. I just think there's something so special about that. And that is definitely my number one bit of advice. I would also recommend, not being afraid to put it out there. I hear a lot from customers, I just don't want to bug people, or I don't want people to be like, oh gosh, there she is again, trying to get me to buy something. I have a different view on that. Like the way I view it is, if you look at your Facebook, there's a lot of stuff. I don't know about your Facebook, but on my Facebook, there's a lot of stuff that while it may be cute or entertaining, it has no eternal value. And if the worst thing people can say about me is, oh gosh, there's McCall trying to bring her kid home again, I'm fine with that. So don't be afraid to get out there, to put it out there, set a goal, share your goal with people. At one point we were trying to sell, I think 50 shirts a day. And so I would get on in the morning and say, okay, guys, 50 shirts today. Here's the link. If you haven't shared it, shirt sales end on Friday. So you set a time limit and you set a goal. Then later in the day, I would come back and be like, okay, we've only got, 12 more shirts today to meet our goal. People love to feel like they've helped you reach your goal. And so I would definitely recommend setting a timeline, setting a goal, and then just getting a shirt that's neutral. You want something that appeals to all the people. So there are definitely ways we can work to make it unique to your family while also appealing to the masses. So our shirt, for example, our family really loves the Chronicles of Narnia. And it had a big lion, a face of a lion on the front, and it had a crown on it. And in the crown, in what kind of looked like part of the crown's decoration, it said Il est roi, which is he is the king in French, which is our daughter's national language in Congo. But there's a quote from the book, from Chronicles of Narnia, that says, is he good? Of course he's good. He is the king. And it says, is he safe? No, he's not safe, but he is good. He is the king. And that was just a really powerful statement to us. We felt like that really related to what we had gone through during our journey to bring our daughter home. And so that was what our shirt meant to us. So it was really personal, but it looked really neutral. It didn't say Aldridge Family Adoption. It didn't have our hashtag on it. It just looked like a good, cool, neutral shirt. So we had people that loved Chronicles of Narnia wanted it. People that loved lions wanted it. People that just loved a cool design wanted it. It was just a good, neutral shirt that appealed to a lot of people. And that's definitely what I would recommend as far as design goes.
What about color? Do you have a specific color that is the best seller?
Everyone loves gray. Gray is a great color. But one thing that we do at Fund the Nations that I think is a little bit unique, as long as your design is the same, you can put multiple colors on the same order. So what I usually recommend is doing something neutral like gray, and then maybe doing like a more feminine color, like an aqua or a mauve or something that, you love, that you think your friends will love as well.
Do you find that the majority of the purchasers for t-shirts are primarily women, or is it a mixture pretty equal between women and men?
I think it really depends on your design. I think there are definitely more shirts available to women. Graphic tees are kind of a trending thing right now, and there's a ton of places for women to get cute trending tees. But men are a little bit more limited. So again, getting something that's neutral that could appeal to everyone. And then if you want to make it more feminine, doing that through the color of the t-shirt, I think is a really good way to go.
Now, McCall, when you talk about like giving, or an adoptive family giving their story, how can an adoptive family or a hopeful adoptive family give their story in a way that connects with the audience and makes them feel compelled to give or purchase?
I think that now is, like, honestly, when I think about people who adopted and fundraised before social media, my mind is boggled. I can't imagine doing that. I think now it's easier than ever to share your story. In all honesty, I would just use whatever platform you already use. So if you're an avid Facebook user, I would use Facebook. If you use Instagram, I would use Instagram. If you use Instagram stories, I would do that. If you have a blog, I really think it kind of depends on what you're most comfortable with. You could always get someone to make a video for you of your family sharing your story that could be connected, that's easily shared, that would work well as far as, something that would work well for, you to get someone to make a video. Oftentimes, if you ask, people are willing to donate their time for that. Get someone to make a video of your family sharing your story, something that's easily shareable on the internet, or you just going live. We involved our children in that because it's their family too. Their sister's coming home. And so we had our kids do some cool stuff, especially like for their birthdays or for her birthday. Just really however you're the most comfortable. I would just be really honest and really vulnerable. And I know that that may sound a little bit scary, but if the Lord has called you to grow your family through adoption, then I feel very confident that He's going to equip you and give you what you need. And, your story is going to be a testament to what He's done in your life and in the life of your child.
Do you have any advice that you would give to hopeful adoptive families that are walking through their journey currently?
Yeah, the wait is hard, but it's worth it. I would say don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to share what's going on in your life. Adoption is not something that everyone necessarily understands. They just necessarily haven't walked through it or haven't known someone who walked through it. And it can be really challenging. It can be really emotionally draining. Don't be afraid to share that, to tell people what's going on, to be honest. I know there were times when I was a little hesitant because in the back of my mind, I was like, this is really hard, especially like, for example, when we lost our daughter. She will forever be my child in my heart, but she's never going to be my child in our home. That was so hard and something that was so unusual, and people didn't really know what to say or how to relate. But I think just recognizing that, they may not say the right words or they may not know what to say, but really, like, is there a right thing to say? The fact that they're at least trying, like they're asking, they're wanting to be a part was really encouraging to me. And just allowing people in, just knowing that, just because you chose to say yes to adoption doesn't mean that it's not going to be hard or doesn't mean that it's not going to be trying or challenging. I think most good things in life are at sometimes trying and challenging, and the wait can feel really lonely, but it doesn't have to. If you seek out and connect with other families that have walked that walk, if you, even if you don't know any in real life or your church doesn't have like an adoption branch of your church, you can still get online, find someone on Facebook, find someone on Instagram, and connect with those adoptive families. I think it's just really important to have people surrounding you that not only are praying for you and want to walk with you, but also that have been there and done it. They can tell you, like, it's worth it. Hang in there. It's going to be okay in those moments when things are hard.
Yeah. McCall, what would you say was the hardest part of your adoption journey?
Well, definitely the wait. We waited 3.5 years, and there were times, like there was one day I know when they called, my agency called, and she was like, "Hey, I don't want to scare you," which is never what you want to hear from your adoption agency. Like, but there's been a really bad flood at the orphanage. We're having a hard time getting in touch with people. We don't know what's going on, and that was really scary. And then there was another time when our daughter was in the hospital. You think of how hard it is for your child to be in the hospital here, but she was half a world away in the hospital. And that was just hard. It was hard to, not be up to date, not know what's going on. It's just such an unusual feeling. I also think, and the hardest thing that wasn't like dramatic was when it was Christmas. And they told us that we could send one Ziploc bag of Christmas things to our child. My daughters and I and my husband, we all thought about, what do we want to send? I mean, what would you put in 1 gallon Ziploc bag for your child you haven't met yet to celebrate, Christmas? And that was just, just such an odd feeling, so unusual, trying to sum up, the biggest holiday of the year in a bag. And I don't mean that it's about gifts. I just mean like the idea of feeling like you've included your child and like you've thought of your child. And it made us really sit down and think like, well, what would she like? And what does she like? And what will she like? And it was just something I'll never forget, the way that felt.
So going back a little bit about Fund the Nations, I just thought of this, are there any other types of fundraisers that y'all do, or is it just t-shirts?
Well, we primarily just do t-shirts. We do offer hats or mugs or stickers, but really probably the best bang for your buck is going to be a t-shirt. Everyone loves t-shirts. Everyone wears t-shirts. And really and truly, can you ever have enough t-shirts? Because I don't think that you can. And so t-shirts are really just a great way. It's a great way to share your story. It's a great way to have it out there and people wear your shirt and ask, well, what was this shirt for? Hey, I like your shirt. Where'd you get it? And that gives people, a reason to talk about your adoption, to share your story, to share what the Lord's done. And, if you think back, like none of us can say that we adopted because it was just an idea that came to our mind that we'd never heard of before. we adopted because we'd heard about adoption from someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, a t-shirt is just another way to get that conversation started.
Absolutely. And I think, like you mentioned earlier, when we make the t-shirt something that is outside of just our personal friends would want, we can really start to have that conversation, and allow other people in to have that conversation when it's more of a generic shirt. I think that probably one of the things that we hear most from our families is, well, all of our friends have already done, maybe they know other hopeful adoptive families, they've already done a t-shirt fundraiser. But would you agree that making it specific, I love your example of what your family did with your shirt, but would you agree that there's no such thing as people getting tired of t-shirts if they are unique enough?
No, I don't think that at all. I mean, you wear it, you get dressed every day, right?
Right.
So I think that, people are going to buy clothes from somewhere. And I think that it's great when they do that in a way that is supporting the gospel and the Lord's call to care for children that don't have families. If your shirt has a good enough design and is unique enough and it's something people like, they're going to purchase it. But in order for them to purchase it, they have to know that you're selling it, meaning you have to get out there and put that out there and share with people, hey, I'm selling this shirt. And then you have to tell them why you're selling the shirt. Well, we're selling the shirt because we're adopting. Well, take that a step further. Where are you adopting from? What led you to this place? Are you hoping for a boy or a girl? Do you have a name picked out? I just feel like the more connected people feel, if you think about a good movie, like a movie that you love, chances are the reason you loved that movie is because you really felt connected to the actors or, the characters in the story. When you feel connected, that's when you feel their emotions with them. That's when you're going to cry or be excited or whatever. So I think the same thing applies here. The more connected people feel to you, your family, your story, the more likely they're going to want to walk beside you.
Absolutely. And also, just to highlight what you said earlier, nobody wants the Brown family name across their chest. So that's one thing that we tell all of our families. Don't put your name on the shirt. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. And I understand why people, want to do that. They want to make it unique to them. They want to make it special. But there are so many ways we can do that without putting your family name on there or your hashtag. It's not that that's wrong. It's just that limits you to people that know you. And there's a whole world of people out there that may want to support your adoption that don't know you. And so there's no reason to limit it to just those that want to wear your family name.
Right. McCall, do you have a favorite adoption book or Instagram account that you currently follow that you would say would be a great suggestion for some of our listeners to check out?
Yeah, I have a lot actually. I follow a ton of people on social media. It's part of my job is to follow people. One that I would recommend, let me think. Okay. What about Win Elder's blog or Win Elder's Facebook or Instagram? She adopted 2 children from Ethiopia, and following her journey, her children came home while we were in the middle or kind of at the beginning of our process to adopt. And it was just really inspiring to see okay, this does happen. This does work out. She was one of the first people that I bought a t-shirt from when I started our adoption process. And I just loved seeing her children come home. It just brought me a lot of hope to see someone who had done it and it had worked and their kids were here and they were fundraised. And it was just really a source of hope for me. And now Wynn and I are good friends in real life. And so it's just nice to, make that connection. And anytime you can make a connection with someone that's been where you're going, I feel like that's so encouraging.
Absolutely. I love that. I've never heard of her blog, but I just went to follow her on Instagram. So I love that. Are there any other thoughts or ideas that you would like to share with our community before we go?
I think I want to tell you what makes Fun the Nations different.
Yes.
There are a lot of t-shirt companies out there. There are a lot of places you can go and get a t-shirt, but I think what makes us different, there are a couple things. One, we have a team of super talented designers that work for us full time and will work to design you a shirt for free. All of our design work is free. And they're going to design it personally for you, not with clip art, using their gifts that they've been given until you love it. So if they do the first take and you're like, hey, I wanted a tree, but I think I wanted a willow tree instead of an oak tree, they're going to fix that for you all free of charge until you're just super happy with it. So I think that design is key because, again, we all have a t-shirt, but if there's one we love enough, we're going to buy it anyway, even whether we technically, quote unquote, need it or not. And I think design is really important in that. And our designs are really, really good. Our designers do a great job. And I feel like I can say that because I don't do design work. But our designers, I think, really go above and beyond. They are so talented. You can see our design stuff on our Instagram, especially on Fridays. My boss posts Friday favorites every Friday, and you can kind of see what people are loving this week, what we've done this week. And it's a great way to go and kind of get some ideas as far as what's in style right now, what's trending, what are people loving, and just get some inspiration. And then the second thing I think that makes us really unique is that we really, really care about our customers. Our staff is made up of people that love the Lord. We want to serve you. We want to get to know you. We want to walk through your story with you. There are several customers I'm now consider friends because we work together on t-shirt designs and I help them bring their baby home, or I feel like I got to play a part in their mission trip or in their, nonprofit that they were starting. And we pray for you guys. We have staff meeting every Wednesday, and on Wednesday mornings, we always take turns and someone will share a story of someone that we're currently serving. And it just kind of helps remind us, like, these are people that are trying to serve the Lord, that are trying to say yes to their calling. And we just feel so passionately about the idea that money should never be a reason to say no to what the Lord is calling you to do. There's so many excuses you can use. Oh, well, our house isn't big enough. Our kids are too young. We don't, it's scary. It's out of our comfort zone. And those may be legitimate excuses, but we don't have the money right now is not a legitimate excuse.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We really want to partner with you and help you. It's not uncommon at all for someone on our staff to say, hey, McCall, I have an adoptive mom. I'm working with her. She really feels unconfident. She's not sure how to share her story, how to get the word out there. She's got a great design. Would you be willing to talk to her and kind of help her get started? And I take that really seriously. Like, that's my chance. When we don't necessarily feel called to adopt again, but my, serving the orphan is not over. Like, I didn't just check it off my list. Oh, I adopted my kid. I don't have to do that anymore. Like, I will forever feel like I want to be a part of that, of bringing kids to their forever families. And so that's the way that I can do that on a day-to-day basis. So I just feel like it's really personal. We take it our customer service very seriously. We want you to feel loved and taken care of and to serve you in a way that is loving and would be pleasing to the Lord. So I feel like that really makes us set apart from other t-shirt companies that are out there.
I love that, McCall. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us really quickly what the Instagram handle is for Fund the Nations and also for you? That way people can follow you and your story.
Absolutely. So Fund the Nations is just Fund the Nations, F-U-N-D. Fund the Nations is our Instagram. And then my personal Instagram is Lee, which is my husband's name. So Lee, me, and the girls, because we're a house full of girls with 3 daughters. So Lee, me, and the girls is my personal. And thank y'all so much for having me. I love sharing with you guys and would love to work with any of your adopting families that are needing some support or encouragement, as they work to bring their kiddos home.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, McCall.
You're so welcome.
Have you heard about the Promise Summit? If you are out there and you're listening right now and you are hoping to adopt, or you're an adoptive parent, or you're struggling with infertility, or maybe you feel called to adoption and you just have no clue where to start, then you need to be at the Promise Summit. Casey, tell us a little bit about what the Promise Summit is.
The Promise Summit is a Christian conference for couples considering adoption, in the wait of adoption, and or families who have adopted. This event is packed with powerful speakers, incredible worship, and a panel that represents all members of the adoption triad, and is sure to be a weekend that you will never forget. Our hope is that you leave the Promise Summit forever changed and armed with the promises from God that will encourage you throughout your entire adoption journey.
The Promise Summit will be held May 3rd and 4th in Greenville, South Carolina, and we would love to meet you there. You can find out more information at thepromisesummit.com or on Instagram at the Promise Summit.